Hi guys, this is Lashette from Scarlet Moon Creations and I am back. This is my April Divination wrap up. Alright, so I hope this is not a super long video. I'm going to try to have some kind of structure here, even though I didn't write down the structure and came up with it just before I pressed play. Adding the deck and walk into this is fuzzed me up a bit. I started to make a separate video, but it's just too much, too many videos with everything else I'm doing. So updates on the deck and walk will be here, even though that would more closely align time-wise with my regular bullet journal videos. But since I don't know how regular those will be, my plan is to have timestamps in the description down below. So do check for those, though they might not show up as soon as this video premieres. Give me some grace. The order is I plan to show you the decks I used this month, then show you my Divination journal, then my deck and walk journal and Astrology journal, and then set up my Divination journal for the next month cycle, which is usually pretty quick. I just do it off camera and then show you what I've done because it's fairly simple, right? Okay, so let's go. The main deck that I used this month was the Baseball Tarot. That was my plan. This is by Mark Lauren and Laura Phillips. And yeah, this deck continues to be perfect for everything. And never any issues. Pretty direct reader. I do still need to check the guidebook pretty regularly for the minors because I don't remember them all, but yeah, it's just a pretty direct deck, and I appreciate that for spring, for what have you. Now, what did I use this for? I used this for daily draws, and my plan was to use this deck use the spreads that come in the guidebook, and I used one or two. I realized they're for specific situations, and I'm not always in said situations. So it's kind of hard to just do a reading like that. I will say I just kind of only did that for about half the month because the daily draws, because I just wasn't really feeling it after a while. Not that I didn't want to use the deck, it's just that I was pulled to use other decks. So that was the Baseball Tarot. The next deck I used the most this month is the Universal Goddess Tarot, another of my spring decks. Whoops. I keep mentioning it because these are both in that video that I posted finally. And the main purpose for this deck was to have cards for the full moon and new moon readings, which I did. I did new moon. I did not do full moon, but that's fine. I also used this deck in the deck and walk spreads that Marlena Teresa, who's kind of spearheading, hosting the deck and walk for a bunch of people. She's creating spreads for each decan, and I've done all of them. So, and for Aries, I used this deck exclusively and have been enjoying it. Again, if I focus on the tarot meanings and not so much on which goddess is this, then I do well. And I'm still a work in progress where that is concerned, but yeah, still a pretty straight reader. The cards mostly correspond to Wade Smith, but some seem a little more Marseille-like. As far as the decan walk, which when it comes to tarot, it's like looking at the astrological influences of that decan and the tarot card doesn't show up consistently in this deck. So not an astrological deck, right? Not a very thothy deck. But there are some, and I can see where the deck creators kind of pulled these particular goddesses for those decks because of reasons. So like you can see here, I have the Five of Pentacles and the Magician, which corresponds to Mercury here on the top, because I use these cards for the first decan of Taurus, which I'll get to later. I think what I might do in these videos is just talk about the most recently ended sign. So I'll talk about the first 3 signs of Aries here. Not really go into Taurus, okay? Next, the Fairies Oracle. Now, I said I would use this for my, what do you call it? Deck study. Still haven't gotten back to that, but now it's May and I'm really determined, right? Because I started this deck study last May and I've got only about 15 cards left. So yeah, so anyway, this is an oracle deck that I've had a very long time and I love it. I love it so. And the deck study is about me kind of formalizing in a way my thoughts on what I believe the cards mean, as the creators, Brian Froud and Jessica Macbeth, ask you to do. They encourage you actively to do, I should say. So I'm loving that, but I wound up pulling this a couple of times for pairing with the baseball tarot. And I can't remember, but I think I did one other reading with this. Let's see how these two pair together. I have used this deck by itself, like I would a tarot deck. And that works great too. Not this past month, but yeah. This deck is more summery to me. Or obviously late spring, early summer, though it could be autumn as well. So as you can see, shuffling this deck is really hard. I do have large hands. They fit my body. I'm a tall woman, but thank goodness for the bendiness, because yeah. And let me shuffle these guys because yeah. And if you haven't watched any previous videos, the pink stuff on the bottom, washi tape, because of the deck study. Okay, Coach of Bats. Coaches are queens in this. And the Oak Men. Ooh, interesting. Learning new ways of action. Bats are wands. Very interesting. Very interesting. I think they complement each other with the borders, like visually as well. And Ace of Bats, I think this is the fairy who was kissed by pixies. Like, the Ace of Bats, beginning action. So, I don't know how to describe this. These are both kind of old-fashioned, but in a very 80s way. And the tossing of a salad. Is this the tossing of a salad? I think is it? Yeah. And the picture, which is, oh my god, the sun. The very active energies. 12 of balls, wild pitch with unity. So like trying to make things happen and come together. 12 of mitts. The 12s are, see, I always have to think. Knights. Circus catch with honesty. Ooh, interesting. Mitts are cups as well. So Knight of Cups with honesty. And what else? Last one, 9 of mitts, pop flies. So like 9 of cups. And this is the maiden. Interesting. Very interesting. So they're not like the most beautiful pairing in the world, but it's not bad. Some very quick mentions here. The Light Seer and the Deviant Moon Tarot. I'm gonna flip through these together to show you how they pair some other time, but I'm just pulling the card each from the Wheel of Life year ahead reading I did. So I've got the hub cards, which are the same throughout the whole year, one from each deck, and then cards for each month, again, one from each deck. So the April cards. Okay, so the other decks I used were for the deck and walk, like I said. And first I'll show you them, and then the specific cards is what I used. So first, the Thoth Tarot by Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris. I've got the little mini one. Like I said before, I didn't know it was mini way back then. It's fine. Thankfully, I've got very good eyesight. My Radiant Rider-Waite Smith. The Spirit Keepers Tarot Revelations Edition. This is the first Revelations edition by Ben and Bell Wen. This is indie deck. And I don't know where to put that right now. I also use the Black Moon Astrology cards and the Arcane of Astrology cards. Now, these I used with multiple purposes, right? So my point with going into the deck and walk was, one, you know, reminding myself of the astrological purposes of the, whatchamacallit, the astrological influences in the minor arcana. But I really wanted to focus on the astrology aspect, and in this case, transits, because I have studied astrology off and on over the years. And so what I do is I do pull out the cards for each decan, and at some points I will read the insert for said card, the sign and the planet, which is really good, particularly in the Black Moon Astrology deck, though I'm not always sure about this corresponding tarot card section. But yeah, so same with the Arcana of Astrology guidebook. Now this is a whole lot simpler, so not better, I guess, for beginners. So shorter, paragraphs and easier to read, pick up the keywords and the info. So yeah, now let's look at the actual cards I used. So I'll put it up on the screen here, but one of the first things I did, since I found out about the deck and walk the day it started, or technically I guess the day before it started, I, had a lot of things to run into, and I'll pop some pictures up on the screen here. But what I was doing really in the beginning of Aries 1, even though that 10 days falls in the previous month, the end of March, was putting all my decks, my tarot decks, in order. I also did similarly for the 2 astrology decks, and that was very satisfying. And it gives you a visual reminder with the astrology decks of, the wheel of the year and what planets correspond or rule what signs and or houses. If you have those cards, both of these decks have houses. The drawback for the astrology decks is with the decans, we're looking at the original 7 planets in, I guess, more historical astrology. I forget the term. I'll put it on the screen here. But yeah, this was the 7 planets we can see with our naked eye, and there's still 12 zodiac signs. So other than the 2 luminaries, the sun and the moon, the rest of the planets double up. Meaning they rule 2 signs until, we got the telescope and could see the outer planets like Pluto, Uranus, Neptune. So trying to do a wheel with just the planets and signs was difficult. So I wound up using both decks and that kind of thing, as you can see in the picture, and that's fine. This is where 2 decks comes in handy, right? The other thing is, like I said, I put my tarot decks in order. Now, the tarot decks I just showed you are the main 3 or 4 that I'm using. Technically, I'm not even really using the Goddess Tarot that much for this. It's more because of the readings I'm doing, the decan spreads that Marlena has put out. I'm using that. I use that for that, and that's why I'm including it here. But I did this for every tarot deck I had, because my plan, and I'm still doing it, is to pull out the 3 cards for each decan. The Minor Arcana that corresponds with the decan, and then the sign and planet that correspond with that decan. One for each of the 10 days. So I just want to see, even if for a quick 5 minutes a day, because I put them up on my altar, which cards in which decks show some aspect of those astrological influences. So that was a whole thing that was really fun, but it took a lot of time because all of these 78 card decks, right? So, what am I doing? I didn't put this in order, right? So to give an example, starting with the astrology, right? We did Aries decans, which was Mars in Aries. Let me make sure I'm on camera, Jesus. Mars in Aries, Sun in Aries, and then Venus in Aries. So these are the cards. So for 10 days, I would have these 2 cards. Well, I had them like this, right? But yeah. And then I'd switch to Sun in Aries, like so. And then to Venus in Aries, like so, right? And I would just have these there as kind of a backdrop for each. And before I go on, really quickly, I'll show you the same with the arcana of astrology. Here we go. The Aries, the Mars in Aries, Sun in Aries, Venus in Aries. So I should have put the Thoth Tarot first, but I didn't. So bear with me. Two of Wands was the first deck in, and that was the Emperor card, and the Tower. Sorry, whoops. I have these over here for a reason. Bear with me. Alright, so this will be up on my altar for a day. And while I was doing my studying or whatever, I can glance over and see what it is, or go about my day and see what it is, right? Then I would do the Thoth. So, Emperor, Mars, weird. Wait, what? Yes. No, sorry. Aries. Emperor Aries. I did this a lot, by the way. Mars Tower, please, I beg of you, bear with me, because I did this a lot. You'll see, right? Again, that was day 2. Then, day 3, we'd get a little bit more complex with the Spirit Keeper's Tarot, because why not? The other deck that is very explicit with the astrology influences here, the Emperor and the Tarot, has the glyphs all on the top, so the easiest one to pick out the cards for. And that was day 3. Then, let's see, this was not the order I went in after this, but for the sake of this video, the Universal Goddess Tarot, Two of Wands, the Empress, and the Tower. That would be day 4. Now, there are other decks I used. I said I used all of my tarot decks. One of the readings I wound up doing is one that popped into my email account from Warts and Cunning website, and they kind of marry esotericism with herbalism, which I love that. I love that so much, which is why I'm subscribed to them. And they were like, well, why don't you do a spread with all towers? And I was just like, this is hilarious, because guess who is studying the Tower here and decking 1? So I did do a whole spread, and I'll put that on the screen while I lay these out, with towers, excuse me, and that was fun, but really difficult, and reminded me why I don't do spreads like that. It was the Celtic cross. So I put this up here because it's large, it can't fit. But you can see all of my towers here, and I'm gonna move these guys out of the way so I can spread them all out so you can see all of the towers. And I can tell you about my other cards. So what we have here, so this was the Universal Goddess, Spirit Keeper's Tarot, Revelations Edition, the Thoth, the Radiant, Wade Smith. This is the Good Tarot. This is Llewellyn Tarot, Line Strider Tarot, the Simplicity Tarot, the, oh my god, Deviant Moon Tarot, the Lightseer Tarot, and the Herb Crafter's Tarot. So, having done this, I did this completely for Aries 1. I realized these 2 decks, I did it for Aries 2 as well. These 2 decks really show no astrological influences. Actually, these 3 and this one, absolutely not, right? But so the Simplicity Tarot, it's simple. They take out the esoteric stuff on purpose, so that makes sense. This is a more herbal, more numerical focus, so helpful. These 2 I wound up keeping for reasons I'll get to in just a second. But these guys, I realized that I've studied these decks a lot, and I have done other similar kind of comparisons, so I don't pull these anymore. No, that's not true. I do pull the Line Strider every once in a while, but I don't pull Llewellyn or Deviant Moon at all anymore. These two I still pull because both guidebooks have affirmations, which I feel gives me a different perspective. And so I'll pull the card, the corresponding minor card, and then say the affirmation as my affirmation for the day. This is the Light Seers and the Good Tarot. So, yeah. These are the ones I use, and I didn't feel like pulling out the Light Strider. So, we've got the Three of Wands for Aries 2, the Sun, Thoth, Aries 2, Three of Wands, SKT, Spirit Keepers Tarot, Three of Wands, Emperor and Sun, the Universal Goddess, Three of Wands, Emperor, and Sun. I love that Sun card, y'all. We start again with the Radiant Waitsmith, Four of Wands, and the Empress, because now we're doing Venus in Aries, Thoth, Emperor again, Four of Wands, and Empress for Venus, the Spirit Keepers Tarot, Emperor, Four of Wands, and Empress. And last but not least, the Emperor, Four of Wands, and Empress for the Three of Aries. Now, the other thing I did, looking at the deck and wheel, right, the corresponding court card for the Aries season is the Queen of Wands. So, Thoth, Radiant Waitsmith, the Golden Shield, Symptom of Splendor is what it is in the Spirit Keepers Tarot, and then the Queen of Wands for the Universal Goddess Tarot. I did pull out. I haven't pulled out any from any other decks, and this was just a couple of days each 10-day period. So I made a schedule. I'll show you the schedule in a minute. But I did study that Queen of Wands. We finished the card showing section, and now we are on to the journal section. Here's my divination journal. And these are spreads that I feel I can share, and any other divination, which is usually like astrology, thoughts, or whatever. So here I put decks I used, and let's go for it. My green pen ran out of ink, by the way. I was very upset. I obviously used the Baseball Tarot, the Fairies Oracle, Universal Goddess. I did use the Moonology, but not really. It was like, this is the moon sign that you're pulling the Goddess Tarot cards for. The Light Seers Tarot, and the Deviant Moon, and then Thoth, the Rider Waite Smith, SKT, Revelations. Fairy deck study, did not do, so moving that on. Did do Deck and Walk, Aries 2, 3, and Taurus 1. Yes, I did a Dark Moon. Yes. I did not do a full moon spread. I did not do a spring equinox spread, so we'll just move that on. I did some of the Baseball Tarot spreads. So, this was the Warts and Cunning one card tarot spread. You do the Celtic cross with a card for each. This was the tower for each position. And yeah, I messed up. I have to fit that in. Kept it pretty simple with the setup here. It continues on the next page in a weird spot. Then daily draws. This was Baseball Tarot and the Fairies Oracle, Ace of Mitts and the Lone. New Moon in Aries spread. This was kind of a delayed doing of this, but yeah, using the Goddess, Universal Goddess Tarot. Dailies. This was just one card from the Baseball Tarot. I did the Pitch and Swing spread here using just cards from the Baseball Tarot. The Situation in Reality, and then the Best Course of Action or Attitude. Then this random, I was going through it, and I'll talk about that later. I found this online because I was having analysis paralysis, and I felt like I needed something to help push me to do the next thing. And I couldn't figure out what that something was. I couldn't figure out which task to prioritize, and I didn't want to not do anything, which is my default. I've seen other tarot tubers talk about how they use tarot cards to transition between tasks. No one explains exactly how they do that, so I was just Googling, and I found this, the Indecision spread on empatheditor.com. I'll put the link in the description. It's a 3-card spread. You make a to-do list with a max of 5 items, and then it's like, the first card is the next step. What task should I do next? Card 2 is why take that next step, and the card 3 is how it feels. What was it? Yeah, how it feels to have made that decision, I guess. Does that feel like a good decision? If it does, you do that task. And that worked out really beautifully. And like I said, I used the Fairies Oracle for that. Then I did the Aries 2 spread by Marlena Teresa using the Universal Goddess Tarot, and that turned out nicely. Back to some dailies with the Baseball Tarot and Fairies Oracle. 3 days in a row. Like, look at me. Who am I? And then nothing for a whole 10 days. I fell off here from both regular daily spreads or just random spreads, and also for the end of the Aries cycle. Aries 3, I wasn't studying like I was with Aries 1 and 2, so yeah. But I was like, come on, Lashette, you can do this. So we were at the end of Aries 3, and I did the Aries 3 spread here. Universal Goddess. Oh, and the Fairies Oracle. So I did pair those two together. Then I had a dream, and I actually got my ass up off the bed and grabbed my Sacred Destiny Oracle, which I started earlier this year using for a dream interpretation. And I pulled the card Stillness. I did want to put some kind of doodle, but then I filled in the space. I also actually pulled a card from the Baseball Tarot for clarification. So I'll put that picture up in case I took it. Alright, then I did the New Moon in Aries Solar Eclipse spread, actually on time. Again, using Universal Goddess Tarot. Now, this is not readings, but that there's been a lot of discussion about money and tarot decks, the prices of them, and wanting to participate in the YouTube community if you have only a few decks or one deck, or like you don't have that much money, so that kind of thing. You don't have the variety, the access to variety. And it's only recently that I've gotten more than 20 decks, and I've got 25 exactly. And still, it's difficult. I feel like you guys have seen every deck that I've had. And I thought about these only 10 deck things. Since the first one, the original only 10 decks by Katie Flowers, because I've been following her on YouTube the longest, like for of any YouTuber for any topic. And I know she's not really doing tarot content right now, and you know, Katie, I wish you the best if you come across this video. But even at the time, I was like, that's literally half my collection. And I know what I would choose is the decks I've had the longest because I have the closest relationship with them. And yes, I'm personifying my decks, but it is what it is. So I was like, what's the point of doing a video like that for someone like me? Because I don't have that variety. But I realized I don't have to not participate. Like, I can still write out a list of decks. And then I've been watching only 10 mass market, only 10 indie decks. Even before that, it was only 10 oracle decks and only 10 tarot decks. And I was just like, these defeat the purpose of the original tag. Only 10 decks. You can have 10 for each category. Like, but so I was kind of rolling my eyes and ignoring those. But I realized I could still, like, you know, you see these tags, and I'm not going to do a video because there's going to be so much overlap, right? Off the top of my head, I could list the only 10 decks I'm going to pick, and those will all be the oldest I have, except for 1 or 2, and that's it. I don't have to troll through my collection, rediscover things, or what have you. And that's fine. No shade to anyone else. So that would be a short video. But if I did that and then I did only 10 decks tarot edition, then only 10 decks oracle edition, okay, there will definitely be decks from each of these that are on my only 10 decks list, right? All right, so then we just list them out, right? And that's what I did. Let's think about only 10 mass market and then only 10 indie. I can do that because I was really precious for a time. I was like, well, I don't like having decks that everyone else has. And I don't want decks, I still kind of feel this way. I don't want decks that fulfill the same point as others that I already own. So they have to be completely different for me to get them. And I gave myself these rules because I don't have money like that, and I let it go. But like, I have 25 decks, and half of them are mass market and half of them roughly are indie, or not, because I thought I had 10 indie, and boy, did this tell me that some of the decks that I had were not indie because I thought they were, because I bought them directly, this is back in the day, from the creators, not knowing anything about publishers or whatnot, right? So like my Brian Frown decks, I thought those were indie for the longest time, but I don't think either are. Well, one isn't. One is Simon & Schuster. The other one is out of print. So, but I believe that was is still a pretty big publisher. So anyway, but I could still list my decks here, right? So I did, and then that's it. I participated. Now, the Wheel of Life year ahead. I kind of went on a rant. I wasn't planning to, but I did. The year ahead, Wheel of Life reading, I wound up talking about with a friend of mine. I haven't written down my thoughts in here, but I will. Because I did, like, pull those cards and think about them and all of that stuff. So, that's why I left the space there. I just gotta put it in this book. Then the Llewellyn Tarot, one deck gone wild. This video should be up. I believe I put it up already. And this was so much fun. And I believe this tag came partially in response to the whole Mistress Ray video and the like the discussion about community and consumerism and pricing and how to participate when you don't have a lot of decks. And I love this. So I did it for the Llewellyn Tarot and had a blast, knowing I was going to do it again. But before that, I have my Taurus 1 spread by Marlena Teresa, and I use a different deck, the Simplicity Tarot, but I will talk about Taurus in the next month's wrap up here. Lastly, I have my thoughts about the astrology and how I was feeling during Aries season, doing Aries 1, 2, and 3 for the deck and walk. And the biggest thing for me was realizing that Aries and Mars correspond with the head and like thoughts, creativity, that kind of thing. Like there's an action, physical movement aspect to both of them as well, like doing the things, initiating. But I get in my head and I realize this happens every season. So that was the thing. The whole initiating, doing all of those, like organizing my decks and putting them in order of the deckings. I did not need to do that at all. But I was so fired up on April 20th and April 21st. Like, I have 10 decks that I did that to. 10 tarot decks. So I spent Aries 1 just putting my decks in order, really. I was listening to all these podcasts and reading all these books and yada, yada, yada. It was a very initiatory, like, I've got the spark, the passion for this project, let's go. Picking my journals and all that stuff. And the Sun in Aries, I realized, like, it's the opportunities that I get around this time of year, they happen. I got a new one, and I was freaking out because I'm always all in my head. And I kind of talk myself out of saying yes to a lot of opportunities that come at this time of year because I'm in my head, and I start thinking about the details in the future and being like, well, I won't be able to do this, that, or the other. And this all happens in my head. I don't have conversations with people about this. I just self-doubt my opportunity away, and it passes, and I never even thought of some of these things as opportunities. I just, yeah, that head thing, right? The panic and the worry and thinking of all the things that can go wrong, and just, yeah. Then Venus in Aries, it was kind of a realization of these first two, right? So I'm studying these things, I'm listening to these podcasts, I'm reading the books, and I'll show you some others that I'm using, and pulling out the cards and seeing this and thinking about that. I'm also thinking about, like, how can I change how I react to these situations? I'm identifying with these cards, the 2, 3, and 4 of Wands, in a way, like, how can I bring that into my life? How can I shut down the negative self-talk, really, and just, like, realizing the light bulb went off, right? I was also very stressed from a big axe, and I finally talked to someone about it, and it was my youngest brother, and he was like, F them, basically. Like, if you don't want to do this, say no and let it go. And I did. And I felt so much better, and it turns out they didn't even need me anymore. But, like, also the whole opportunity for my business came up, and it wasn't what it was originally, and I kind of freaked out about that. But I talked to my friend, and she was like, you could say this, this, and this. And then I threw something together, kind of a return pitch to the person, and they were like, oh, that's great, this is so detailed, let's set a date. And I was just like, so yeah, that's how that happened. And then here we will go with the cover page for next month. But before we do that, let's look at the deck and walk stuff. Right? So in addition to the decks and the 2 guidebooks, I did a very quick flip through of this these two in my previous video. I was going to, like I said, show you a separate video, but it's getting to be too much. So I created two journals, like I showed you, an astrology journal and a deck and walk journal, specifically for the tarot cards. So I guess a tarot study, yeah, that's what I put, a tarot study journal, which I've never really done before. I have tarot study notes in a notebook when I was taking courses. I have for astrology, like, similar. I also have this packet that my first astrology teacher, like, officially handed out, and I made, like, notes way back in the beginning. But not tons, because I didn't know everything. But Jeanette was very cool and very awesome, and not only did she give a lot of great information, she also gave good advice when it comes to studying, how to study. Like, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot. Your brain will, like, reach a point where it's like, all right, we need a break. And you need to take that break. So I have my chart from, what is this website? Astrolab. And this is probably the oldest copy of my chart that I have. And yeah, it's like taped in the middle because it's been folded for so long. So I made the index, as I showed you in the past. And left lots of space. I've added to my sources. So that's the reason I want to keep this open. Alright, so the books. I've got the Cosmic Navigator, which I wasn't sure I would use, but I have started using the Taurus one. So this is by Gal Eden Sanson, and Design Your Destiny with Astrology and Kabbalah. And I'm not really using the Kabbalah part. Please excuse the way my books look, because there's an issue in my home with where they were. I didn't realize that would happen, so there is that. The Complete Idiot's Guide to Astrology is the first astrology book I ever got, and it still remains to this day to be wonderful, by Madeline Gerwick Brodeur and Lisa Leonard. 3rd edition, so yeah, slightly better shape. I also have these. Seasons of the Soul. I can't really show you in detail because this was paid priority? No. I forget. But Diana's Grove Mystery School 2012 created these lessons for each sign. But they are so well done. They're like workbooks, and they go over the sign and the archetypes that go into the sign, the houses, the season, the planets, and I love it. So this is, I'm not really doing the work because I've done these already. I printed them out and I put them all in this binder, but I did Aries and I put it back recently, and I put Taurus here. Or I pulled Taurus out, and it's just a refresher, really, for me, in that aspect. And I also have Houses of the Horoscope, but I don't know if that I'm going to use that. I said that about Cosmic Navigator, but it is what it is. Then, podcasts. I have the Astrology podcast, which I love, and I've been wanting to go through certain videos that are more general, but they do monthly astrology, not wrap-ups, but like they go through all of the transits that'll be happening, particularly the major ones for each month if you want to check them out. But they have 2 playlists for the signs and the planets. There's also a playlist for the houses as well. So Chris Brennan runs that. Susan Chang mentions the Astrology podcast very often, and her podcast, Fortune's Wheelhouse, and with MM Moline, And I love that. A recent podcast that I came across thanks to watching the astrology podcast videos is Fixed Astrology by Mo and Pow. I think that's how their names are said. But they've done one episode per sign, and then they go over the sign and then each decan. The Fortune's Wheelhouse, they have episodes for each sign, episodes for each planet, and the corresponding tarot cards for each, then episodes for each tarot card, which I love. So I listen to all of them. I listen to these like lessons, right? I listen to them in the shower. I take notes in these two books. YouTube, there's also Hellenistic astrology, more professional astrologers. They've done like a decan walk. They it's kind of a in between of the astrology podcast, which is also on YouTube, and Fortune's Wheelhouse. So they talk about each decan specifically in each video, and they talk about the corresponding tarot cards, but they also bring in the decans from an astrological standpoint, which I love, which is what kind of you can find on the astrology podcast. So they'll read stuff from things like the Picatrix and Valens, which the astrology podcast does for the signs and the planets. So, but I believe the hosts of the Hellenistic astrology episodes, they are more modern astrologers. I don't know. They're younger. That doesn't make too much of a difference, except some terminology, like current slang and things like that. Modern, more up-to-date examples. Baron Getchell, I've been following for a while, so I check out her videos with regards to astrology and the overlap with tarot. Marlena Teresa, of course, because she's running this, and then Jessica in the Moon, I've also been following for a while, and she does have a playlist about astrology and witchcraft and that kind of thing. I already talked about the decks I'm using. Websites, I also check out hermitsmirror.com, Tabula Mundi, and wartsandcunning.com. So Hermit's Mirror did these Astro Divination challenges. So 10 days, 10 prompts within each sign. And you're pulling tarot cards or oracle cards, whichever, to answer the prompts. And they're very astrology based. So I've done all but 2. And what I do for the ones I've done is go back and like look over my answers and see how that's changed and whatnot. And Warts and Cunning has these for the season astrology spreads that you can do. So the ones I haven't done, I'm doing those. The ones I have done, I'm looking back on those. Challenges, Astro Divination, Decan Wall. And 2019 Marna Arcana by 3am Tarot was pretty cool too. Just studying the deck. So, and I have my study plan. So the schedule, that's what's new here. And so day 1, I listened to the astrology podcast about the planets for that. This is for the 10 days of the decan, right? Day 2, I read... Oh, that book wasn't written here. Oh my goodness. I forgot. I am also reading Astrology and Tarot by Corin Kenner. I'm using the ebook on my phone because there's no physical one in my library, and I just say I ain't got the money. But I have been wanting to for a long time, and this is giving me the excuse. Day 1 of the 10 days of the decan, right? I've broken this down because I needed to. Day 1, I listened to the planet episode of the astrology podcast, and I pull out my Rider-Waite Smith card. And day 2, I read the Tarot and Astrology book section on the planet cards. So for Mars, it was the Tower. And I pull out my Thoth card. I've added this to read the planet books and papers. So that's the guidebooks from Black Moon Astrology and the Arcana of Astrology. Day 3 is to pull the Planet Tarot card. Oh no, to listen to the Fortune's Wheelhouse Planet Tarot card. So the Mars card was the Tower. I would listen to the Tower episode from Fortune's Wheelhouse, right? And I pull my Spirit Keeper's Tarot cards. Day 4, listen to the astrology podcast for the sign. So Aries episode, and pull my Line Strider card. Day 5, I would read the section in Tarot and Astrology on that decan. So the 2 of Wands, 3 of Wands, or 4 of Wands. I would pull my Light Seers cards and do the affirmation for that. Day 6, sign, papers, and books. So the sign now, Aries, from my guidebooks, Black Moon Astrology and Arcana of Astrology. Also, sorry, the books, these 2, Cosmic Navigator and Complete Idiot's Guide. This is so long. And also listen to the Fortune's Wheelhouse episode of that sign. So, Fortune's Wheelhouse episode of Aries. And a good tarot card, and say the affirmation for that day. Day 7, I would look for the decan in my chart. This is a fairly new schedule, so this didn't come up until Taurus 1, by the way. Because I was scrambling. I told you, Aries 1, I was just putting my decks in order and listening to random things. Aries 2, I kind of sort of had a schedule. But Aries 3, everything fell off. So I was like, I need to pull this together. What am I going to do every day? And what can I fit? I look at the decan in my chart. Look, I have charts for like close friends and family. And I've had them for the longest. I'm not going to show them, but I have them. And it's like, let's see if anybody I know has that transit or that in their chart. I also would like to add in that I want to do looking at the transits compared to my chart. Like, how does this affect me astrologically if this should come, right? All right. And then I added the Fixed Astrology podcast. So that would be for that decan because they have parts of each episode is broken up to decans. And then day 8, the Ace and Page / Princess. So these are per season. And we get a roughly 3 months a season, so I haven't really done that yet. I'm not in a rush. Also look at the 3 a.m. tarot info for that decan. Day 9, the Court card. So like the Queen of Wands. And since this is only once every 10 days, that gives, and these court cards are for each sign. I get about 30 days, and so that means I will look at this somehow 3 days. And listen to Fortuna's Wheelhouse for the decan. So let's say we're Aries 2, the 3 of Wands. I would listen to Fortune's Wheelhouse for 3 of Wands. And last day, the Hellenistic Astrology decan episode. And yeah. Oops, that fell out. What else new do I have to show you? Okay, I put these stickers in. Aries should be done, but it's not. We're gonna pretend we don't see that. I put these stickers in. I got these all from Sammy, Samantha Menzo here on YouTube, Cloud9 Studios, though I don't believe the stickers are available anymore, but these were hand painted and drawn, and then she made stickers out of them, and I ordered, these were the small ones, and I finally used them. So these are for the signs, and then let's move forward, right? Okay, let me see. What do I have here? Some stuff for the sun, right? And so, like, the planets, I will get to, they pop up 5 to 6 times over the course of the year. So I don't need to listen to the entire podcast, or all, which are over an hour each, for each planet. I can listen to a portion of it for now, and I have 4 to 5 more times because to do that, right? So there should be Mercury and Aries here, but we're not going to talk about that. Venus, sorry, Mercury. Mars is completely filled out because I was just running with Aries 1, the beginning of the 2023-24 astrology. And here, okay, so this is new. The decans, I've put information I've got from the books and the astrology podcast here. I'm thinking also what will go here is the Hellenistic astrology and the fixed astrology notes. So I can come back and do those. The fixed astrology I didn't know about during the Aries season, so I didn't put notes. And then Hellenistic astrology, I was planning on putting those notes in here, but I just never got to it. But yeah, and I put, like, where I can, the last time that transit happened. So the last time Mars was in Aries was last year, about May 25th to July 5th, roughly. It was also conjunct with Jupiter in Aries, and during a Mercury retrograde. So what I want to put, other than those two podcast info, is any thoughts, if anything I find as far as me personally with those transits in my chart, or if I find them in others' charts. So far, not really. Sun in Aries is, you know, when it's Aries season. And then Venus in Aries. I actually know somebody who has a Venus in Aries, so I'm going to put some thoughts down here about that. And then I started my 4th decan page. So that is the update on this journal, my astrology journal. Last but not least, my tarot study journal. Now, not a lot has changed here because I definitely fell off with this. 2 of Wands. I still need to put Fortune's Wheelhouse here. Info. 3 of Wands. I was thinking, oh, I should put notes on the Emperor and the Tower and then the Sun, and I just never did. Then I put the Empress, the Hierophant. I did these pages for the next decans, and then I remembered the 4 of Wands. But yeah, so not as much has changed there. Let's go set up the next video. Okay, guys, we finally come to the end. Do I make this one video, or do I just somehow separate this into something? I don't know. Probably just making one video. I decided, because last time I felt like it was too crowded, I decided I would do a 2-page spread for my cover for May. And yes, I know that takes up more space, more pages in this little notebook, but I don't care. So yeah, the washi tape I'm using is floral from Michaels. I've had forever. I planned to use a lot of it because look, I have so much still. And I doodled some flowers and things because I did that with my bullet journal this month, and that was a choice. Anyway, decks to use. Now I can list them all. Baseball Tarot, still going to use that. I'm adding the Simplicity Tarot. Fairies Oracle, I'm determined. Somehow, I haven't made a schedule yet to do this deck study. Somehow, Fairies Oracle, we're doing this. A Universal Goddess Tarot. This is a big question mark because I really just am not sure. Essentially, the Simplicity Tarot would be replacing it in the Deck and Walk, but that doesn't mean it would be replacing it for the moon readings. So, we'll see. Because I kind of want to play with the Goddess Tarot some more, since I'm finally getting a feel for using it. But, yeah. The Lightseer's Tarot and the Deviant Moon will still be used for my readings. My Wheel of Life Year Ahead reading. Just pulling those two cards I already picked. The Black Moon Astrology and Arcana of Astrology. Continue to use that for the Deck and Walk. But I might pair this with the other tarot decks. The Lightseer's Tarot I will also use for the Deck and Walk. Continuing to use that, and the Good Tarot for the affirmations, which I'm going to put down here. Affirmations. That is a practice, right? It is. So, what else do I have here? Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth, and the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. Definitely still using for the Deck and Walk. Practices. Daily readings. I still want to try some more of the Baseball Tarot spreads. I just have to be more... I just have to plan ahead about that. The Deck and Walk, continuing. Transits study is how I put this. This is related to the Deck and Walk, but I kind of want to highlight that part because I haven't really done it too much yet. The deck study for the Fairies Oracle and those affirmations from the Lightseer's Tarot and the Good Tarot. Again, related to the Deck and Walk, but that doesn't mean I can't do other affirmations because I have another affirmations deck. Okay, and I can use both of those decks for affirmations on days not related to Deck and Walk stuff. So, alright, spreads. I went all out here. I don't know if this is going to happen. The Full Moon and Dark Moon spread, which I tried to do both every time, and it doesn't always work. Colin Mai. This may go up on Beltane. Astrologically, Beltane falls on May 5th here in the northeast of the United States. That's why I'm saying that. If you're thinking May Day, May 1st, then yeah. But astrologically, Colin Mai falls on May 5th. So if I get my shit together, this will go up on that Friday. If not, it'll go up the week after. It doesn't matter. You won't be seeing the fallout until much later. Taurus 2, Taurus 3, and Gemini 1 readings from Marlena Teresa. Taurus from Tea and Tarot, which is from Warts and Cunning. I had not done the Taurus one. I've done the Aries spread, but I hadn't done the Taurus one last year, so I'll do it this year. A Mercury spread, a Moon spread, a Saturn spread, and a Jupiter spread. The Mercury was for Taurus 1. I didn't look. Okay, these 4 are big maybes, and I'm blaming this on Robin's reflections because I saw her Aries wrap up and everything, and she was showing some of the spreads that she looked for the planets, and I was like, oh, I should do that. And here we are. I don't know if it'll happen. That's a lot of spreads that are not daily pulls. On top of the studying of the deck and the deck and walk. Like, it's a lot. And I'm also doing herbal things. We'll see. But yeah, that's the plan. I have another video to film, not today, but I already started the next one deck gone wild, and look forward to that because I already started that before I did this part. But yeah, let's end this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you are new. Hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming. Links in the description to everything I mentioned, including the other channels. Go forth and multiply. What do I want to say here? Links also to follow me anywhere else on social media if you like to, including Instagram and Twitter, though fair warning, I'm more of a fangirl on Twitter than anything else. But Instagram is my shop, and my tarot and oracle stuff. My shop is the same name as its channel, Scarlet Moon Creations. Links to a 10% off discount code to my Etsy shop, where I make all natural bath and body products, as well as offer tarot and oracle card readings. Guys, I think that's it. We've covered everything. Next month's video will not be this long, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.